Hello everybody. Next we play host this Sunday to Everton. Kick-off is at 2 p.m. and disruption abounds on the C2C service between Grays and Percy, and the Ginger line through Hackney Wick is also buses only this weekend. So check before you leave and all that. So Everton then. Well, they're in a bit of bother at present. They've lost 7 of their last 9 in the league and went crashing out the cup to Palace. With a performance so dire, Keanu Reeves would have been embarrassed by it. They did win their last league outing, a 99th minute from campion old boy Alex Iwobi, giving them all 3 points against Newcastle. But it's the Palace game that'll be freshest in their minds. The lack of green ink in the ledger has left them in 17th spot with 25 points from the 27 games they've played so far. This is a mere 3 points ahead of Watford, though to be fair, the Toffees do have 2 games in hand. They are, however, just the 4 points clear of Burnley, having played the same number of games. Their poor form this season led to the dismissal of Rafa Benitez, to whom many supporters never quite took, what with him having worked for the divers across the park in the past. After a while under the caretakership of Duncan Ferguson, they appointed Frank Lampard Jr. to the manager's seat. Now, it always seems to me that Lampard's management credentials are a bit shaky, to say the least, and that anyone who hires him is doing so less on the basis of proven helmsmanship and more on the basis that he was at Chelsea while they were laundering rubles in exchange for trophies. Having picked up a shed load of medals in the process, some form of logic suggested that he was worth a punt as manager. The evidence and experience suggests that this logic is, at best, well flawed. His spell at Derby failed to see them promoted, and his tenure at Chelsea was punctuated by rumours of him upsetting players, to the extent that Petr Cech had to be used as some form of intermediary. So the fact that in the league they've won 2 and lost 5 since the Whingers' arrival shouldn't really come as any surprise to the Everton faithful. It's really just about par for the course. Daisy informs me that the change in manager, which took place on 31st of January, didn't stop them from dipping into the transfer market during the winter window. The undisclosed fee for left-back Vitaly Mykolenko was said to be about £17 million. The Ukrainian left-back arrived from Dynamo Kiev, or Kiev is when I'm supposed to pronounce it, on New Year's Day, as a replacement for fellow left-back Lucas Dean, who by then had burnt his bridges with the then-manager Rafa Benitez, and was in the middle of sorting himself out a move to Villa. Mykolenko's most notable pronouncement of late was a statement berating the skipper of the Russian national side for his failure to criticise publicly the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Whilst one can understand where Mykolenko was coming from, I do feel his statement may have missed the small but pertinent fact that critics of Putin have in the not-too-distant past found themselves drinking polonium tea or shaking hands with Novichok-covered door-knockers. The next arrival, Nathan Patterson, was ostensibly signed as a first-team player. However, no sooner as the ink had dried on the deal, which Daisy informs me was worth between 11 and 16 million, depending on add-ons, Benitez was on his bike. This left Patterson in something of a no-man's land, and he's largely featured for the under-23s since his arrival. Next cab off the rank was the arrival of Dele Alli, whose eventual fee would range between £0 and £40 million, depending on numerous clauses. Ali cited the opportunity of working with Lampard as his motivation for joining Everton, a statement that A glossed over the fact that he was about as popular as Putin at Spurs, and B suggests that he didn't sound out anyone who was at Chelsea at the same time as Lampard in his rush to leave Tottenham. They went all Dutch on the loan front. Winger Anwar El Ghazi arrived for Villa in the middle of January. He was undecided as to whether to represent the Netherlands of his birth or the Morocco of his ancestry at international level. In the end, a chance meeting with none other than Cristiano Ronaldo on his holidays helped him make up his mind. The Portuguese diver suggested that his chances of appearing in major tournaments would be increased by wearing orange, and El Ghazi is now the proud owner of a couple of Dutch caps. Another owner of Low Country millionary is Manchester United midfielder Donny van der Beek, who arrived at the end of January until the end of the season. That may be just my impression, but van der Beek always seemed to be someone that Man United bought because he was available, without them ever really knowing what to do with him. With former Ajax manager Erik ten Hag Being touted as the next manager of the theatre of tacky marketing slogans, he may prefer to return back along the M62 at the end of the season, particularly if Burnley and or Watford get their act together. Enough of them, let's move on to the wild and wacky world of association football, shall we? And Southgate shuffled the pack for the two internationals last week. The game against Switzerland resulted in a slightly fortunate win, courtesy of a Kane penalty that shouldn't really have been given. That goal put me in mind of another potential invented spurious record for Tottenham's spin doctors to start marketing. Most penalties scored that shouldn't really have been given converted by a single player. That game was notable for the fact that Henderson appeared to have watched the whole match without paying for his ticket, much as he does in most of the England matches in which he's made an appearance. Now here's a funny thing. It's only a while back that the world's worst newspaper, the Liverpool Echo, was giving Declan Rice a 4 out of 10 mark for a match in which most papers gave him a solid 8, commenting that it was time to end the Rice experience and give Henderson the shirt. No, really they did. However, they're now being more complimentary about Declan since the Anfield tapping up machine has swung into action, and they're letting the world know how much Klopp would like to sign the player. Funny that. For the record, Rice is a better player now than Henderson has ever been or ever will be, and Henderson's sole purpose should only ever be played to keep Declan from getting an injury in a meaningless match, though frankly a slab of concrete and an England shirt would be more mobile. The match against Côte d'Ivoire, or Ivory Coast if you prefer, was punctuated by sporadic booing of Harry Maguire, clear evidence, if ever any were needed, that most Man United supporters are London-based. And so to us. Well, Tottenham, it's always disappointing to lose to lesser opposition. The way their room temperature IQ support celebrated the win told you everything you needed to know about their biggest match of the season, a match that was only our third biggest that week. Now, I'm not by nature a religious type, but I would beg you to petition whichever deity or deities to which you entrust your prayers in assistance of a speedy recovery for Son, whose terrible, terrible injury, when lightly brushed by the ball, must surely see him on life support for a bit. Contrast that with the reaction of Cresswell, who got a girly slap for which the statutory punishment would have been a red card had Anthony Taylor been on the ball, something in itself that would have required a brain transplant on the part of the hapless official. At the end of the day, bigger fish to fry and all that. We've still got 3 on the injury list. Soufal is recovering from hernia surgery, and whilst Ogbonna will still be out for a good while, there was welcome footage doing the rounds of him doing gym work. Another step closer. We're also likely to be missing Bowen, who would probably have had his first England cap this week, but for the slow progress with his mystery foot injury. Otherwise, it's pretty much as you were. So, on to the prediction then, which is basically a win for us. With Watford at Anfield and Burnley hosting Man City this weekend, there probably wouldn't be any immediate change at the bottom should we win, but we would have the satisfaction of having made a contribution to the woes of their obnoxious manager. So the £2.50 that I would have spent on lighting a candle for Son will instead be going on a home win. Make it 3-1 to us if you will, Mr. Wisdom. Enjoy the game.
So we're here in the offices of a Late Late Show with the host of a Late Late Show, James Corden.
Hi.
Big West Ham fan.
Yes. And big knees up Mother Brown, man.
Yeah.
Get on the forum at kumb.com. Come on, you irons.